Today we're taking notes over slope as unit rate, and you've learned about unit rates before. I promise you have. Today we're just connecting those to our idea of slope. So a rate is a comparison of two values that have different units. A rate's a comparison of two values with different units. A unit rate is a type of rate in which the second value is 1. So for every mile, per minute, things like that. So this example, walking 10 miles every 5 hours would be a rate, but walking 2 miles every 1 hour or per hour would be the equivalent unit rate. And you see that math work out here. You're basically simplifying fractions and then rewriting it using the units. So right here is where you see our unit rate, which could easily describe the slope. The slope of a graph represents the unit rate. Remember, if you divide your y over x out, then that gives you a number over 1, which would be a unit rate. So if you're asked the unit rate, this is what you do. You're going to use the origin and another point to find the slope. So I'm going to zoom in here. Here is my first point where it evenly crosses at the origin, and then my second one's right here. And if I look at these tick marks, they're really just going up by 1. They just labeled the 5s. And then I find the slope using my graph. So remember, slope is rise over run. And to get from my origin to that second point, I rise 2 and I run 1. So my slope is 2. Then the second step is to write the slope as the unit rate using labels. So what this is going to look like in general, not for this example, but in general, is the slope number followed by the labels like this. So you're going to write the y-axis label slash x-axis label. And in this case, that's going to look like 2. Our y-axis is miles, so 2 miles per means the slash, and then our time or per hour. So 2 miles per hour would be our slope as a unit rate. And that's really what we're focused on today with these notes. So we're going to do 1 and 2 together. So with Scott hiking, I'll zoom in on Scott's graph here. We're going to use the origin as our first point, then follow along the line until, it crosses evenly. And to get from that point to my second point here, I have to rise 3 and run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's rise 3, run 5. So I would write my unit rate as 3/5 miles slash hour. So 3/5 miles per hour. If you want to write that as a decimal, you can do that as well. You could put 6/10 of a mile per hour. Either way. Now let's look at Rebecca. Our first point's going to be the origin. Our second, we're going to follow along the line until it crosses perfectly evenly right here. We're going to write our rise, which is 9, and our run, which is 4. And then I can write that as 9/4 miles per hour. You could also write this as 2.25 miles per hour. Either one would be acceptable. All right, flip your notes sheet over, and we're going to do 4 examples together, and then you will do the rest on your own. We're going to look at number 1. So I'm going to zoom in here. We are comparing points to game. So I'm going to go ahead and write points per game, and just get my units out of the way so I can focus on the slope. My first point's the origin. My second point is going to be right here where it's evenly at 1 game, and you can see that it is 20 over 1, which is the same thing as 20. So our unit rate here would be 20 points per game. Again, using these labels to describe our unit rate and explain what it represents. Then we're going to shift to number 5. Number 5, we're going to write our units, so it's dollar per year. My dollar sign's in front because that's where you write a dollar sign in front of a number. And then I'm going to fill in this space with our slope. So I'm going to find my slope starting at the origin. It crosses evenly right there. We see that we have to rise 5,000 and run 10, which simplifies to 500. So that's $500 per year for this situation's unit rate. Then I'm going to look at number 8. For number 8, we have gallons per hour is going to be the label for our unit rate, so gallons per hour. My first point's the origin. It crosses evenly again right here, and I need to pay attention and look at these intervals. So the 120 marks are marked, but we know that each tick mark increases by 60. So it's 60, 120, 180. So to get from here to my second point, I have to rise 180 and run 6. 180 divided by 6 would be 30. So for this situation, the unit rate would be 30, which was our slope, gallons per hour. Our units found using the axis labels. Lastly, we're going to look at 9 together. So each of these tick marks, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 between 0 and 20 there. So I'm going by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Now let's look at our label. So dollar per hour. So again, I'm going to put the dollar sign in the front, per hour, and then I'll fill in with the slope once I find it. I'm going to use my origin as my first point. The second point will be right here. So I have to increase 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then run 1. 25 over 1 is 25, so I plug in my slope here and get $25 per hour. All right, make sure your notes look like mine. Go ahead and practice these others on your own, and we'll go over them in class tomorrow.